Welcome back, everybody. Today we are playing the Ocean Course at Half Moon Bay Golf Links in Half Moon Bay, California, just south of San Francisco, right on the Pacific Ocean. This is located at the Ritz Carlton in Half Moon Bay, and again, I feel like this is one of the most underrated golf facilities in the country. And in terms of links golf courses, I think this is one of the best links golf courses in the United States. So if you're ever in the Bay Area, make sure to get to Half Moon Bay and play both the Old and the Ocean Course here. The first hole on the Ocean Course is a dogleg right par 4, and you can hit a driver off of this hole. I like to hit my 1-iron here pretty much just to keep it in the fairway. Can't really get into too much trouble, but if you do hit a driver, you can cut it a decent amount and give yourself a little bit different angle into the green, but usually there's just not a whole lot of reward for hitting the drive too far on this hole. The approach into this hole is downhill, however you're going to have to watch out for what the wind is doing. Sometimes that wind can push your ball to the left quite a bit, making it a little bit easier to overhook on your shot in. I hit a decent shot here with a 9-iron just onto the front portion of the green, and you'll notice how much this green slopes, and you can see the ocean right off of the green on this hole. Now, you can actually see the ocean on every single hole on the Ocean Course. Even as far away from the ocean that you get, there's still places on each hole that you can see the Pacific Ocean. The second hole is really a hole that you could make a pretty easy birdie on, yet you could also make an 8 or a 9 just as easy. There's fescue both right, left, and short of this fairway, and you do have to go over a ravine here in order to get to the fairway. So really long hitters could drive the green. I can drive the green, especially from maybe the blue tee boxes, but these back tees, the goal is really just to put it in the fairway. Now, I hit it into the bunker here, which is still okay, but again, you can see I'm only 91 yards out here, and I really didn't get any rollout once I landed in this bunker, so you can see you could really just have pretty much a chip and a putt for your birdie on the second hole. So one of the easier holes on the course once you're out into the fairway, but also one of the more difficult tee shots, especially if your drives get a little bit wild off the tee.
Oof.
So lipped out my short birdie putt there, which is actually going to become a recurring theme in this video. Lots of lip out putts. With that said, I do play really well today, so this is one of my better rounds, probably that I've even had on this course. I've shot 4 or 5 under par at this course once or twice, but for the most part, anywhere right around par is usually a pretty good score. Now, with that said, the conditions that I'm playing in today are the absolute best conditions you could possibly play in. There's no wind, which is pretty rare for Half Moon Bay. There's no fog. We can see the sunshine even though it's first thing in the morning. I'm the first player out here on the course, so you're not going to see much better conditions than this. With that said, this golf course is a lot of fun to play even when the weather is bad, because you kind of feel like you're out in Scotland playing that links style golf course, and it's one of the few golf courses that if it's windy, it's actually still kind of fun to go play golf. Hole number 4 is a fairly easy par 5, however there are bunkers to the right and then there's hazard left. If you can avoid that and just keep it straight, then this really should be a pretty darn good birdie hole for you. Your second shot is usually going to end up still a long iron, if not a wood, into this green. But again, just keep it straight. You do have more room left off the tee than you realize, but don't go too far because you can end up in that hazard. But as you can see here, I've just got a 3-iron into the green, and I actually hit this iron really well. And once again, I will tell you, sorry for the dark cameras, but again, I teed off here really barely before the sun even came up. So Really good second shot here into the par 5 though. Got a long eagle putt, and one thing I want you to notice on this green is how much this putt alone breaks. So be careful on some of these greens. There are times that these will break a lot more than they look, especially on the little subtle putts from 4 to 5 feet. You got to be careful on those short, quick ones. On a windy day, the 5th hole can be one of the more difficult holes on this golf course. However, today, with it being so calm, it's really not too tough. Now, off the tee box, it is fairly wide open. The whole right side is going to have bunkers though, so you'll see kind of what I do here. I do pull this way left of my target line, but I know it's really not in that bad of shape because really the further left you go, the better it's going to be here off this tee. So I'm just over in the 6th fairway and just have a short iron in. Now, my biggest piece of advice on this hole is just to avoid the bunker to the right of the green. That bunker can be a very difficult bunker to get up and down out of, especially if the pin is on the right side of this green. So I stayed a little bit short of this flag, hit it right at it, but I've still got a pretty significant putt here for my birdie. And my putting for the most part today was pretty darn good, but this was my worst putt by far out of the whole day. So I absolutely crushed that one, and you can see that it does roll significantly towards that bunker, which that bunker right behind me, that's a bunker you really got to stay out of. And there you go, that's lip out number 2, this time for a par. So this is my first bogey of the day here at the Ocean Course. Gets me back to even par. Hole number 6 is another fairly straightaway par 4. Really, you get your drive in the fairway and you should just have a short wedge into the hole. I like to play a big cut off of this tee shot just to kind of take the fescue on the left side of this hole out of play. You can still play out of that fescue pretty easily, but of course you'd much rather be in the fairway. So this is a really good drive for me right down the middle and only have about 80 yards in here. So I'm just going to hit a little low punched 56 degree to kind of let it hit and stop right where it lands. This was one of my better executed wedges of the whole day.
Ice cream cones? Whoa!
Hole number 7 and hole number 17 are the two difficult par 3s on this course. Hole number 7, in my opinion, might even be a little bit tougher than 17 though. You really got to make sure that you don't go short and you don't go left. You'll see where I hit my tee shot here, and I probably could have hit a 6 iron, especially with how cold it is this morning, but I just hit the 7 iron, hit it well, and luckily I did, because if you don't make good contact with too short a club, you're going to end up in the water. Now, where my ball landed there, you want to make sure that you're even right of that, because if you go another even yard or 2 left of where my ball is here, it will likely roll all the way back down into the water. So instead, I've just got a nice simple little birdie putt here, only about 25 feet for my birdie on number 7. Hole number 8 for me is by far the trickiest tee shot for me. I tend to be a little bit more uncomfortable playing a draw off the tee, especially with my driver, and if that's the same for you, I would recommend even just hitting a wood out into the fairway or a long iron, because it's really not that long a par 5, but even if you do hit a perfect drive, there's no guarantee that you're still going to be able to get there in 2. So I hit a really bad one here though. I should have just hit my iron off the tee, but I'm over in the trees. This is actually in the hazard here, so I pretty much just have to punch out with a 5 iron. It clips the bottom tree branch there, and I'm in the fairway, so I still have a full-on 246 yards out here. So be careful off the tee. Again, this really is where your tee shot should be ending up, and you might just be a little bit further back if you're hitting a long iron or a wood off the tee, but there's no reason to risk those left trees and the hazard on the left. So I just am going to leave myself a little short of this green and have an up and down to try to save my par after being in the hazard but recovering out of there. Hole number 9 is an uphill par 3, and this will always play more uphill than you realize. Especially if the pin is to the right, the green will actually move further back as you go further to the right on this hole. So play a little bit extra club. I hit a 6-iron here, and really I should have absolutely hit a 5-iron on this hole. It's 192. This hole is probably going to play closer to about 202 with how significantly this does play up the hill. And really, the trouble is short of the green. Over the green, it's actually hard to even get over the green for the most part, but usually you just have a chip down that hill. So always make sure you use plenty of club on this 9th hole. Alright, great front 9 for me there. 1 under par, 2 birdies, 1 bogey, and 6 pars. 2 for 2 on the scrambling though, so 7 of 9 greens in regulation is always a good sign for the day to come. Hole number 10 is a par 5, and another par 5 that you got to be a little bit careful with. Off the tee, there's really not too much trouble. You can really hit a bomb right in the middle of the fairway on this hole. If you go right, you might even end up in the 11th fairway, which is not that big a deal either. You just have to avoid left, so I like to hit that cut to just kind of take the left side of the golf course out of play on this hole. But you'll notice that this flag is kind of tucked behind a big ridge, and in all honesty, most of the time it's not even worth it to go for this green in 2. I took out my 1-iron trying to be a hero and hit the green in 2, but as you can see, this was a snap hook straight left, and you can't go this far left. I actually hit the cart path here and got a little bit lucky. I did have to hit a provisional shot, but I did get lucky, and I found my shot over, this is actually the 15th tee box that I'm on here. Now, I've just got a quick little look into the pin here, but this is going to slope significantly away from me, so it's pretty impossible to even keep my shot here on the green.
All I can do right now is put on a brave face and go out there and be their leader.
I've done that like 3 times today. I have actually. The 11th hole is pretty much straight away. However, this green is a lot deeper than people realize. So if you're playing towards the middle of the green or looking at the yardages in the middle of the fairway, be careful because this green, if you got a back pin, it's going to be a lot further back than just playing towards the middle of the green yardage. So make sure you're taking the right club. I hit the right club here. Unfortunately, I just kind of hooked it a little bit too much just off of the left side of the green there with my pitching wedge. But for the most part, this is a pretty straightforward hole. You shouldn't really get into too much trouble. The big trouble that you can get into is if you hook it off the tee box and end up left off the tee. Hole number 12 is a downhill par 3, and you'll notice what I do on this hole is I always take it left because that hill to the left of the green oftentimes will take your ball all the way down towards the pin. Now, I don't hit this tee shot quite far left enough. If I could, I would usually actually take this another good 3 to 4 yards left of where I hit mine because it's going to take a little bit more slope and go all the way down to the green. So even though this looks way left of the flag, it will roll down, and you'll notice here that I'm still just putting just barely off of the green, even though I know off the tee it looks quite a bit left of this pin. The 13th hole is a downhill par 4 that can play either about 470 or 520 depending on the wind. If the wind is right at you, this is a very long hole. You'll notice that off the tee box, I'm actually going over these bunkers on the right side. And even though it looks like I'm going even further right, this is actually a perfect drive if you can clear those bunkers. Now, if there is wind at you, you will have to play out way to the left of those bunkers because it will knock your ball down really quick. Now, I don't have a shot tracer on this particular shot. Now, this is 4K video, so make sure to change your YouTube to 4K if you can't see it, but I wanted to show you what happens when the ball hits the green on this specific shot. It hits up on the right corner of the green, kind of in the middle of the green, and spins all the way back to the left off the front of the green. And that's one thing you got to be careful about on this hole. Any spinning shot is really going to want to come back off the green, and if you're on the left portion of the green, it could even roll all the way down into that bunker. So be careful what type of shot you're hitting into this green. Hole number 14 can be a little tricky on the drive, but after the drive, it's a pretty simple par 5. Now, what I do is I just try to keep my drive just to the right of those bunkers. If you go too far right, you're in really thick fescue grass that sometimes you can't even find your golf ball in. So even if you're in the bunkers, it's not always the worst spot, but ideally just right of the bunkers like I did right here into the middle of the fairway. Now from here, you're only 245 up the hill, and the good news is that you can miss this green either to the right or to the left. Either way, you're going to have a decent chance at an up and down for your birdie. Hole number 15 heads right back to the Pacific Ocean before the finishing 3 holes right along the ocean. Now, on hole number 15, you got to be very careful of the left. If you see the fence just to the left of me there, that runs all the way down the left side of this hole, and everything there is out of bounds. So I like to actually start a cut right at that fence and just let it start cutting right back into the fairway. I feel like I've hit this shot on this hole many times, and usually each time it's a pretty simple shot to keep in the fairway if you just play it off of that fence and let it cut back in. So this unfortunately was not one of my better iron shots of the day, and I did hit right on the yardage of where I would normally hit the 7-iron, but just know if there's wind, a 176 yard shot could turn into more like a 205 to 210 yard shot really quickly with any type of wind. This was not one of my better iron shots. I hit it way right of the green and then it rolled down this hill. So I've got this uphill chip shot back up to it. Luckily, I've got a lot of green to work with and it's running back to me. So I hit a good chip shot here just up and rolled just about 6 feet short of the hole. Hole number 16 is the beginning of these famous final 3 holes on the ocean course at Half Moon Bay Golf Links. This is a par 4 down the hill, and as you can tell, we are right on the cliffs of the ocean, and you'll be right here on the cliffs of the ocean for these final 3 holes. This is probably the most difficult of these 3 holes, though, this downhill par 4, and you do need to be careful because if you go right, you're in a lot of trouble, and if you go left, you're, of course, in the ocean. So, pretty important to keep it in the fairway, but this can play a very long hole again if there's wind. So I know today it looks pretty straightforward, this whole course, but I'll tell you one more time, if there's wind on this golf course, it can really add 5 to 7 shots to your score pretty quickly. There is a ravine just short of this green, so make sure to take plenty of club, and if you go over the green, it can be a pretty difficult chip back there too, so club selection on the second shot is really important. I did hit a pretty good shot in there with my wedge, and now I've just got this birdie putt here that will break pretty significantly from right to left. Other than the 18th hole on the old course, number 17 on the Ocean is probably the most photographed hole here at Half Moon Bay Golf Links. Now, you want to be careful on this hole because if you couldn't notice, there is the Pacific Ocean, everything on the left side here. So be careful going anywhere left. Luckily, a lot of the times the wind will actually help push your ball towards the right of the green. And to the right of the green, there is a pretty good bailout area. There is a bunker or two over there. But for the most part, just make sure you don't miss left. Nothing good comes out of being left. And even if you do go on that cliff, really you can't play from down there whatsoever. There's not really much of a way to get down there either. So be careful on this hole. Just hit it right at the middle of the green. If anything, just to the right of the green if you're going to miss it. The 18th hole may look a little trickier than it really is from the tee box. The biggest thing is just putting your drive here in the fairway. You don't always need to go right over the bunkers or even try to cut it over near the cart path area. In fact, most of the time you're going to be in pretty big trouble if you try to take it left whatsoever here. So I try to aim right at those bunkers there in the middle of the fairway. You don't want to go much left of those. Honestly, 2 to 3 yards left of that is plenty. For the most part, anything right of those bunkers is going to be totally fine. You'll see how far I take this drive to the right, and even that right there is actually middle fairway. So it's a very large fairway. Just don't even mess around with the left side whatsoever. Make sure to avoid the bunkers around this green. They are pot bunkers. They actually kind of design them to be like you would see out in Scotland during the Open. So I just have this short little birdie putt to get me to 2 under on the day now, which is really a great round for me here at the Ocean Course. I've played this course many times, and remember, you can play this golf course for free as well as the other course here at Half Moon Bay Golf Links. Just go to $0golf.com and follow everything that it says on that website. 10 out of 18 greens and 10 out of 13 fairways hit for me today. So a really good round, and that gets my YouTube career stats after 6 rounds of golf to 4 over par. And as you can see, everything other than my par 3s is doing pretty decent right now.